Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Chapter 1. Conscription. That's how it is. Prepare yourself when you go back. The instructor, wearing a black uniform, crossed his hands and glanced at the thin young man before him, a trace of sympathy flashing in his eyes. I've been included in the draft quota? Lin Yuan was momentarily stunned. Having just crossed over, he had not yet had time to adapt. Before he was hit with this bolt from the blue. Actually, for an ordinary student like Lin Yuan, conscription wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The government always spent generously on military expenses. Even for conscripts, the benefits were decent. But that was during peacetime. Now, with news of different species invasions in the border star systems, many suspected that the purpose of this draft was to bolster the frontline reserves. In the Starry Sea era, 2,600,000 years ago, the Cosmic Human Alliance pursued a frenzied interstellar expansion, conquering star system after star system, inevitably making contact with other species civilizations. Resources were limited. To vie for various space resources, human civilization had initiated a series of conflict wars. Those displaced civilizations of different species all watched human civilization from the shadows, seizing any opportunity to counterattack. This is trouble. Lin Yuan's mood sank. He was well aware that although human civilization generally held the absolute advantage in wars against most civilizations of different species, local battlefields were not smooth sailing. Civilizations of different species deep in the starry heavens were ferocious and brutal, individually powerful beyond imagination. Tearing apart warships was no exaggeration. In battling these different species, even fully armed human soldiers had an average mortality rate reaching 2 to 3%. Moreover, due to the secrecy of the war, all soldiers participating in the extermination of different species were forbidden from communicating with the external world. The general duration of local space warfare was lengthy, lasting hundreds to hundreds of years as a norm. That meant now that Lin Yuan was selected for this draft quota, even if he survived the combat against the different species, he presumed he would spend the latter half of his life aboard a cold outer space warship, never again touching the soil and oceans of a life planet. Lin Yuan took a deep breath. Director, can we discuss this? My parents are counting on me for support, and I have a younger sister. The instructor tapped the desk and solemnly said, Don't worry, actively responding to the government's draft policy. Your family will be properly taken care of. Your father's position will be raised by 1 level. Your mother will receive a decent job in the district. Your sister will have all her tuition fees waived, and after turning 18, she will have 1 opportunity to advance to higher education. So all the arrangements for after my departure are considered? Lin Yuan pursed his lips, feeling indescribably complex. Frankly, these conditions were acceptable. His father was at a career bottleneck that most people couldn't cross in decades. His mother was currently jobless, and securing a decent job would greatly improve the family's living situation. As for his sister, an advancement quota to higher education was something money couldn't buy. With his sister going to higher education, her prospects were boundless. Only, why should all this be built on my sacrifice? Lin Yuan had only crossed into this body a few days ago, and, though he had fully absorbed all its memories, he still felt an indescribable repulsion at the scene of sacrificing one for the happiness of the family. I still prefer life on the planet. Lin Yuan was silent for a moment, then couldn't help but speak up. After becoming a soldier, everything would be under militarized management. By then, it would be too late to refuse. Though refusing now probably wouldn't make a difference either. Lin Yuan. Serving the government is a duty we citizens ought to fulfill. Besides, this draft is a mandatory policy. Once selected, it doesn't matter how much you don't want to go. Moreover, young man, what's wrong with going out and making your mark? Being able to witness the different species, which you only see in textbooks, is something ordinary citizens can't achieve in a lifetime. If you can make a notable achievement, you might even be transferred back to serve in the military district. This is a rare opportunity indeed. The instructor patiently consoled Lin Yuan for a few moments. But Lin Yuan opened his mouth, wanting to say more, but the instructor waved his hand broadly. All right, go now. Spend more time with your family these few days. Under the instructor's gaze, Lin Yuan stood up and left. Outside, more than 10 students about Lin Yuan's age were lining up, waiting. After Lin Yuan came out, one of the students walked in. Classmate, what did the director call us here for? A dark-skinned student quickly grabbed Lin Yuan's arm and asked in a low voice. You'll know once you go in. Lin Yuan sighed, ignored him, and walked away. Before seeing the director, Lin Yuan had not expected to be included in the mandatory conscription quota. Last week, Lin Yuan had learned about the mandatory conscription from a report by a prominent media outlet on his home planet. At the time, Lin Yuan didn't pay much attention. The scope of the mandatory conscription included the entire Kanglan star and several tens of surrounding life planets. With a resident population of 50 billion on Kanglan star, the conscription quota assigned to Kanglan star was only a few 100,000. From a probability standpoint, the chances of a citizen being selected for the mandatory conscription was about 1 in 100,000. Such a minute possibility, Lin Yuan hadn't taken seriously. But reality is full of surprises. Chapter 2. The original body had bought various kinds of lottery tickets for more than 10 years and had never won once. Yet he managed to hit the 1 in 100,000 chance of being enlisted through mandatory conscription. Returning home, Lin Yuan found his parents at home, and even his younger sister, who rarely sat in her seat, was there. Looking at the cake in front of her, she drooled, yet she didn't dare to reach out. Xiao Yuan. Mother Lu Qiong stood up, her gaze toward Lin Yuan filled with unspoken words. Father Lin Shouqing sat there with a frown, seemingly lost in thought. It was clear that the news of Lin Yuan being drafted into the mandatory conscription had reached home. Even compared to Lin Yuan, his parents had known this piece of news earlier. There is still some room to maneuver around this conscription issue. Tomorrow I will go to your uncle's place and ask him to intervene, Father Lin Shouqing said. The uncle he mentioned was a distant relative. Currently employed at a certain research institute, he had quite a few connections. There's no need. Lin Yuan shook his head. The mandatory conscription policy was issued by the government. It's not to mention a mere employee of some unknown research institute. Even the Kanglan Star governor would have to pay a huge price to make any changes. Of course, if Lin Yuan truly had any connection with the governor, his name wouldn't appear on the conscription list at all. Before the list was released, it was possible to avoid being listed by spending money and utilizing connections. But once the list was finalized, it became difficult to be removed from it. I'm a bit tired. I'm heading back to my room. After eating a bit, Lin Yuan got up and went back to his room. How to get rid of the mandatory conscription? Lin Yuan lay on his soft bed, still holding onto the faintest hope. Connect to the goddess of wisdom. After a moment of contemplation, Lin Yuan sat up. The goddess of wisdom was one of the 3 great goddesses of the Cosmic Human Alliance. She was the core intelligent processing system of the entire civilization, overseeing the operation of the whole, responsible for all affairs of every citizen of human civilization, monitoring any abnormal behaviors strictly to ensure they comply with the civil charter. In the span of more than 2 million years of the Starry Sea era, human civilization was able to sweep through many different species largely due to the contributions of the 3 goddesses. If it weren't for the three goddesses' absolutely selfless processing methods, the human civilization of the universe would probably have perished in internal strife long ago. How could it possibly have grown to its current grand, brilliant, and resplendent civilization? Humans have emotions, they can have cognitive biases towards things, can be influenced by emotions into making wrong decisions, but the three goddesses do not. The stance of the three goddesses is always aligned with human civilization as a whole, without any private intentions, capable of being perpetually just. The goddess of wisdom that Lin Yuan connected to was naturally not the main consciousness of the actual goddess of wisdom. It was but an insignificant subconsciousness derived from her, a benefit that every citizen possessed. Cosmic First-Class Citizen Lin Yuan, please state your question. An electronic synthesized voice rang in Lin Yuan's ears through the omnipresent network. I want to know, what are the conditions for exemption from mandatory conscription? Lin Yuan organized his language and asked. Mandatory conscription stems from Article 156 of the Constitution, designed to maintain the stability of human civilization and for warfare. All human citizens are obliged to comply with conscription. The following three conditions allow for exemption from mandatory conscription. 1. Evolvers, being those on the path of evolution, are the hope of human civilization and have the privilege to refuse mandatory conscription policies. Evolvers. Lin Yuan looked complex. During the long Starry Sea era, evolvers were no secret. There were many ways to become an evolver, mainly divided into unique evolvers and common evolvers. Unique evolvers are easy to understand. They cannot be popularized, nor replicated. For instance, some evolutionary families with genetic inheritance belonged to this category. There were some individuals who had undergone an unrepeatable special process, mutated, and obtained extraordinary powers. These two belonged to unique evolvers. As for common evolvers, these were humans who undertook a stable path of evolution. For example, gene warriors who took expensive genetic potions and stepped onto the path of evolution. And spiritual masters, who through brutal training and torture, combined with specific cultivation methods, created killing machines and so on. Any stable evolution path was exceedingly precious, the valuable knowledge discovered by countless ancestors and predecessors throughout their lives. I should just be an ordinary person. Lin Yuan sighed. Being ordinary meant there was no chance with unique evolvers. To become an evolver, Lin Yuan could only consider stable evolutionary paths. But such was not something that could be achieved overnight. Although certain evolution paths like gene warriors could be accelerated, this was based on expensive genetic potions and other treasures. In the human alliance of the universe, genetic potions were strictly controlled products. Ordinary people have no means or qualifications to purchase it. Even if one took a step back and placed the gene potion in front of Lin Yuan, he still couldn't afford it. As Lin Yuan pondered over this, the cold, indifferent electronic synthesized voice rang out once again. Second, cosmic fourth-level citizens have an exemption privilege every 10 years that can offset the mandatory conscription. Fourth-level citizen. The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth twitched slightly. In the first year of the Starry Sea era, human civilization established the public citizen hierarchy system. Citizens were divided into 12 levels, and the higher the level of the citizen, the greater the privileges they possessed. And the method to raise one citizen level was to contribute to human civilization. This was supervised by the three goddesses, ensuring absolute fairness. Thus, raising one's citizen level was exceptionally difficult. Nearly 99% of citizens, from birth to death, were only first-level citizens. Of course, accompanying this were the many benefits of higher-level citizens. Starting from fourth-level citizens, one would possess an exemption privilege every 10 years. This could pardon citizens below the rank of serious offenders from their sentences. Mandatory conscription was included in this as well. However, with the current connections of the Lin family, where could one meet a fourth-level citizen? Bear in mind, the current population of Kanglan Star is 50 billion permanent residents. Those who have reached the fourth level are only one. That is the Kanglan Star governor. the major figure who controlled the life and death of billions of citizens. What about the third option? Lin Yuan couldn't help but ask. Third, contribute to human civilization and be promoted to second-level citizen. Then you can avoid mandatory conscription. The electronic synthesized voice came once again. But it made Lin Yuan fall silent once again. Even without being an evolver, a second-level citizen status is not lower than most evolvers. The privileges that evolvers have, a second-level citizen naturally possesses as well. However, this was even harder than becoming an evolver. At least Lin Yuan knew how to become an evolver, even if he couldn't achieve it. But to be promoted to a second-level citizen, one would need to make contributions that could be recognized by the goddess of wisdom, something completely elusive. What specific acts can be considered contributions? Lin Yuan tentatively asked. Providing a brand new evolution path will earn a huge contribution. The electronic synthesized voice responded. Lin Yuan vaguely realized. The goddess of wisdom placed great emphasis on brand new evolution paths. Otherwise, she wouldn't offer a huge contribution as a reward. Think of other methods. Lin Yuan massaged his temples, considering the three conditions provided by the goddess of wisdom. None was achievable for Lin Yuan at the moment, especially the last one, providing a brand new evolution path. If Lin Yuan had that, he would have already been promoted to a second-level citizen. Why would he be waiting for mandatory conscription? Unknowingly, midnight had arrived, and Lin Yuan gradually fell into a deep sleep. Suddenly, at that moment, a strange pulling force drew Lin Yuan's consciousness towards his mind. Deep within his mind, a magnificent, towering gate of light appeared. The door was filled with a pale blue light screen. It rippled constantly like water waves. What is this? Lin Yuan was shocked. He then awoke from his sleep. It's not a dream. After waking up, Lin Yuan could still sense the gate of light deep within his mind. At the same time, lines of illusory text flashed before Lin Yuan's eyes. Name: Lin Yuan. Identity: holder of the Myriad Realms Gate. Realm: none. Talent: none. Divine skills: none. Chapter 3: Reincarnation descends against heaven's understanding. This gate, can it send me to another world? Through a brief spiritual connection, a stream of information flowed from within the gate. In short, Lin Yuan could, should he choose, pass through the gate in his mind, enter another world. This entrance did not imply the physical body entering, but rather the arrival of the true spirit, the consciousness descent. Similar to reincarnation, the door to the myriad realms. Lin Yuan looked thoughtful. Based on the flashing text in his field of vision, the gate of light in his mind should be the Myriad Realms Gate. And Lin Yuan was the holder of the Myriad Realms Gate. Should I try it now? Lin Yuan fell into contemplation. The Myriad Realms Gate could send his true spirit consciousness into an alien world. But it was not without limits. Each transit required the Myriad Realms Gate some time to recharge. Calculated according to the Kanglin star's solar cycle, this period was roughly 8 months to a year. Never mind. Lin Yuan made up his mind. In a few days, conscription staff would take him away. Then, he would be subjected to comprehensive surveillance along with other recruits. Lin Yuan didn't know whether the true spirit transits by the Myriad Realms Gate would leave traces on his body, thus alerting the surveillance to something unusual. But Lin Yuan dared not gamble. Even a fool could see that the gate in his mind was an incredible treasure. If that were to be leaked, what awaited him would be certainly far worse than forced conscription. Lin Yuan understood the principle that to possess a gem is to invite envy. Therefore, the best time to transit the myriad realms was now. At least at the moment, Lin Yuan was not under any surveillance. Even if some anomalies arose, there was a chance they could be covered up. Moreover, from the extraordinary aspect revealed by the Myriad Realms Gate, it was possible that Lin Yuan could become an evolver and be exempt from forced conscription. Transit. With a single thought from Lin Yuan, the gate of light in his mind began to quiver. Lin Yuan only felt his spirit and consciousness uncontrollably flooding into the Gate of Light. The Dali Dynasty, the Great Zen Temple. As a world-renowned holy land of the Buddha Gate, the depths of the Great Zen Temple were unfathomable. There were no less than 50 martial monks at the innate realm, and even a Grand Master at the Grand Master realm. You should know, whether in the imperial court or in the martial world, innate martial artists were considered local experts, and grandmasters were few and could be counted on two hands. With a grandmaster presiding, the Great Zen Temple could basically be considered one of the top powers. The Martial Monk Institute. Hundreds of martial monks were topless, sweating profusely, practicing the Arhat fist. The Arhat fist was not a profound martial art, but it was highly beneficial for strengthening one's foundations. The many martial monks of the Great Zen Temple often practiced this boxing technique to circulate their life essence. As the monks practiced the fist repeatedly, not far away, a group of 3 to 4-year-old little novices in gray robes poked their heads out. Their round eyes looked over, filled with curiosity and expectation. This group of novices was the most recently accepted disciples of the Great Zen Temple. Their backgrounds were mostly that of orphans without a father or mother. Who would have thought? Among the dozen little novices, one significantly younger novice's gaze suddenly flashed with an unusual light. This novice, naturally, was Lin Yuan, who had transited over. The martial world. Lin Yuan's expression was contemplative. Although the young novice's years were few, he had some understanding of this world. This world, akin to the ancient times of Earth, was home to martial artists capable of taking on thousands single-handedly. From the memory of the little novice, Lin Yuan found that an old monk at the Great Zen Temple, from tens of meters away, could lightly strike and shatter a wall. In the world of the cosmic human civilization, that would undoubtedly be considered superhuman, part of the ranks of evolvers. Name: Lin Yuan. Identity: holder of the Myriad Realms Gate. Realm: none. Bound talent: against heaven's understanding. Current status: consciousness descent. Residence time: 20 years. In the lower left side of his field of vision, Lin Yuan quietly saw lines of illusory text flashing by. I can only stay in this world for 20 years? Lin Yuan looked pensive. That was not difficult to understand. However, the newly appeared bound talent did cause Lin Yuan some confusion. Against heaven's understanding. Lin Yuan checked himself. Apart from his senses becoming much clearer, there were no other anomalies. That's a sparrow. Lin Yuan looked up and saw a sparrow flying in the sky, his clear senses allowing him to notice every detail on the sparrow's body. Feathers, wings, pinions. Only a moment later. Your understanding is against heaven. Having observed the sparrow's flight, you comprehended the martial skill divine sparrow skycrossing skill. Lin Yuan's eyes instantly widened. In an instant, countless key points about the martial skill divine sparrow skycrossing skill flooded into his mind. This skill enabled one to hover briefly in the air, and although it couldn't achieve true flight like a sparrow, it was still incredibly unbelievable. This is against heaven's understanding. Lin Yuan took a deep breath. Just by watching a sparrow for a moment, he had comprehended a rare skill. This ability truly deserved the against heaven label. An earthworm. Lin Yuan shifted his target, looking at an earthworm crawling out of the soil next to him. Your understanding is against heaven. Having watched an earthworm digging through soil, you have comprehended the martial skill Earth Dragon Rolling Skill. A wealth of digging experience and techniques emerged. With the Earth Dragon Rolling Skill, Lin Yuan could create a vast underground tunnel in a short amount of time, becoming the forefather of all tomb thieves. This is sick. Way too sick. Lin Yuan couldn't help but feel emotional internally. At the same time, his gaze no longer focused on the surroundings. Instead, he looked toward the numerous martial monks practicing their fists in the distance. Your understanding is against heaven. Observing the martial monks practicing Arhat fist, you've comprehended the superior martial skill Great Arhat Buddha fist. Compared to the previous two attempts, This time took much longer, almost half a stick of incense to complete. Great Arhat Buddha Fist? Spiritual light surged in Lin Yuan's mind, and he started practicing the fist technique accordingly. Under an old towering tree of the Martial Monk Institute, Abbot Huiyuan stopped walking and looked toward the many martial monks practicing their fists. Not bad at all. There are no shortcuts on the path of martial arts. Only through decades of arduous training can one achieve success. Abbot Huiyuan nodded slightly, his expression revealing appreciation. He observed for a while but didn't find any martial monk slacking off. Everyone was practicing earnestly without any slack. These little rascals. Abbot Huiyuan's gaze shifted, seeing a group of young novices sneaking looks from not far away. Although the great Zen temple is a holy land of Buddha Gate, it is also one of the great martial sects, so it was normal for the young novices to aspire to the martial Tao. They haven't even learned to walk yet, and they're already thinking of running? Seeing 6 or 7 little novices imitating the martial monks and mockingly practicing fist techniques, Abbot Huiyuan couldn't help feeling a bit helpless. Even though Arhat Fist wasn't some profound martial art, it was still a secret skill of the great Zen temple. To learn it would take no less than 7 or 8 years. That was under the condition of having ample vitality and guidance from a master. As for those novices, their bodies hadn't fully developed yet, making it absolutely impossible for them to master Arhat Fist. Fooling around. They're all fooling around. Abbot Huiyuan frowned, his eyebrows knitting together. Training in martial arts was no joke. Forced practice not only brought no benefits but could also injure the body. Just as Abbot Huiyuan was about to step in and send the novices away, he suddenly froze. His gaze fell on the youngest novice amongst them. Similar to the other novices, this one was also practicing fist techniques. What? Abbot Huiyuan's expression changed subtly, becoming more incredulous the more he watched, and a tumultuous shock surged through his heart. Chapter 4. A martial Tao prodigy seen once in 1,000 years? For Huiyuan, an innate realm peak martial Taoist, there were few things that could stir his emotions. Buddhist martial arts inherently have the effect of calming the mind and stilling the qi. Huiyuan had immersed himself in the Buddhist teachings for 70 to 80 years. Not to say he could remain unfazed even if Mount Tai were collapsing in front of him, but it was not far from it. Yet now, his heart was tossing with tumultuous waves. Is this Arhat Fist? No, this is not Arhat Fist. Huiyuan carefully observed the young novice practicing the boxing technique. Compared to the hundreds of adult martial monks performing the Arhat Fist, bursting forth with robust vitality, this young novice's practice didn't cause any stir. Yet to Huiyuan there was something, like an antelope hanging its horns, effortlessly natural. Every punch and every kick by the novice carried an inexplicable meaning. How is this possible? How can such a mere child master such a profound boxing technique? Huiyuan could hardly believe it. Any martial art, including those of the Buddha Gate, requires a great deal of time to comprehend and master. Arhat Fist is not particularly profound, but it usually takes a regular person 6 to 7 years of hard training to achieve some proficiency. But now, the boxing technique that the young novice was practicing was clearly several grades higher than Arhat Fist, and he had already mastered it perfectly, which was utterly inconceivable. What baffled Huiyuan the most was that he had never seen the boxing technique that the young novice was practicing. It bore traces of the Arhat Fist, yet was far more sophisticated. It almost reached the level of the great Zen temple's 72 exquisite skills. Such high-tier Buddhist martial arts, and Huiyuan, an old monk nearly 100 years old, had never heard of it. Abbot! The other young novices also noticed Huiyuan's gaze. One by one, their faces turned pale, standing obediently in their places. Only Lin Yuan continued practicing the newly realized Great Arhat Buddha Fist. At this moment, Huiyuan was hardly paying attention to these novices who had sneaked out. He waved his hand, signaling all the young novices to leave, while he kept his gaze fixed on Lin Yuan, who was practicing. Great Arhat Buddha Fist. Lin Yuan kept practicing this boxing martial art he had realized, while feeling a tingling sensation spreading through his limbs and body, as comfortable as soaking in a hot spring. He did not know how much time had passed. Inside Lin Yuan's lower abdomen, in the dantian, a whiff of qi silently converged. Is this supposed to be inner qi? The innate inner qi that only innate martial Tao experts can harness? Lin Yuan speculated in his heart. He was just a 3 or 4-year-old novice with limited knowledge, only aware that innate inner qi is a power wielded by innate martial Tao experts. As soon as the inner qi formed, Lin Yuan immediately felt a surge of hunger. Instinctively, he stopped practicing. If he continued, he figured he might starve to death. However, when Lin Yuan looked around, he saw that the hundreds of martial monks and the dozen or so young novices nearby had all disappeared without a trace. In their place, there were 7 elderly monks. The middle one, an old monk with very long eyebrows, had a piercing gaze that made Lin Yuan's scalp tingle. Abbot? Head monk? Lin Yuan tentatively asked. Among the 7 monks, Lin Yuan had met 3. The head of the Martial Monk Institute, the head of the Discipline Academy, and the current abbot of the Great Zen Temple. As for the remaining 4, he did not recognize them. However, being able to stand alongside the abbot, their status must be significantly high. Especially that elder long eyebrow, even the abbot only dared to stand half a step behind him. Little fellow, the current abbot of the Great Zen Temple, Huiwen, asked with a gentle smile, "Where did you learn the boxing technique you were practicing just now?" After Abbot Huiwen had the other young monks leave, he immediately contacted the abbot of the Great Zen Temple and other heads. The true experts of the Great Zen Temple immediately realized the seriousness of the matter and hastened to come over, putting aside their ongoing tasks. Everyone's judgment was the same as Huiwen's. The depth of the boxing technique practiced by Lin Yuan was no less than that of superior martial arts. Moreover, this technique was a Buddha fist technique previously unheard of. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, no one would believe that there exists such a superior Buddha martial art in the world that they had never heard of. Where did you learn it? Upon hearing this, Lin Yuan let out a slight sigh of relief. His demonstration of the great Arhat Buddha fist was partly to showcase his talent. Through the 3 attempts just now, Lin Yuan understood that to excavate the effects of his against heaven's understanding, he needed to engage with the profound martial teachings of this world as much as possible. By observing sparrows and earthworms, he could only comprehend ordinary martial arts like divine sparrow sky-crossing skill and earth dragon rolling skill. But by observing the monks practicing Arhat fist, he was able to directly comprehend the superior martial art Great Arhat Buddha fist. If he could observe a superior martial art, then the comprehension derived from it, although Lin Yuan did not know the status of superior martial arts. Allowing him to ascend swiftly and condense innate qi was certainly no trivial matter. And to access such superior martial arts of the Great Zen Temple, even more profound teachings, merely being a young monk was definitely not enough. Replying to the abbot, "I just saw my fellow disciples practicing boxing and also wanted to practice along. As I was practicing, I somehow comprehended this boxing technique, although I'm not sure if I should have." Lin Yuan promptly showed an expression of unease. What he said was not untrue. In the Cosmic Human Alliance, if Lin Yuan were this forthcoming, he might be observed or even studied. But in the current world, similar to an ancient feudal kingdom of the martial world, especially in a place filled with the Buddhist teachings like the Great Zen Temple, even if Lin Yuan displayed extremely powerful talent, he would only be regarded as a true Buddha reincarnate or a living Buddha child. Seeing the monks practicing Arhat fist and then comprehending a superior martial art that far surpasses Arhat fist, the abbot of the Great Zen Temple and the other heads fell silent. The elder long eyebrow, observing Lin Yuan intently, also went quiet. If anyone else dared say such a thing, they naturally wouldn't believe it. What a joke. Did they think superior martial arts were as common as cabbage? Most superior martial arts were created by Grand Master realm experts after extreme dedication and effort. the great Zen temple, as a sacred site in the Buddha Gate and a major school in the martial world, primarily relied on 72 exceptional techniques to continuously train innate realm martial experts. The 72 exceptional techniques are precisely 72 superior martial arts. A 3- or 4-year-old kid claiming to have comprehended a superior martial art. However, upon reflection, the abbot and others irresistibly found that what Lin Yuan said could very well be true. Firstly, the great Arhat Buddha fist is a superior Buddhist martial art. In the present world, besides the great Zen temple, there indeed are some other Buddhist sects. But undoubtedly, they are all led by the great Zen temple. There are superior Buddhist martial arts aside from the 72 techniques, but the abbot and the heads certainly would have heard of them. The superior boxing technique practiced by Lin Yuan, however, was something they had never seen before. Secondly, it was not difficult to see that the great Arhat Buddha fist had a significant connection with Arhat fist. This was consistent with Lin Yuan's claim of watching Arhat fist and comprehending the great Arhat Buddha fist. In a split second, the abbot of the great Zen temple and the other heads exchanged glances. A thought simultaneously emerged in their minds. Could it be that among the new disciples received by the great Zen temple this term, there really was a martial prodigy seen only once in 1,000 years? Chapter 5, Sutra Pavilion 5 years later. Little fellow, show me your hand. As the abbot, the heads of various departments, and others were lost in thought, Elder Long Eyebrow stepped forward and spoke in a kind tone. Okay. Lin Yuan did not decline. In fact, he couldn't decline. Upon looking at Elder Long Eyebrow, Lin Yuan felt the thread of innate qi that had just been nurtured in his dantian tremble. It was obvious. This Elder Long Eyebrow possessed strength far beyond Lin Yuan's imagination. At the very least, he was much stronger than the abbot and the heads of various departments. Because Lin Yuan did not feel such pressure from the latter. Martial mastery brings forth inner qi. Indeed, it is refining a supreme martial art to the state of perfection. Elder Long Eyebrow gently touched Lin Yuan's right hand, releasing a wave of searing inner qi before he sighed. Inner qi is born naturally? Upon hearing this, the abbot and heads of departments at the great Zen temple unanimously breathed a sigh of relief. Even though they had speculated as much, they were still astounded. In this world, the martial path is divided into the acquired realm, innate realm, grandmaster realm, and great grandmaster. Generally, the grandmaster is already considered the limit, while a great grandmaster might not appear once in hundreds of years. And the vast majority of martial artists in this world reside in either the acquired or innate realms. There are generally 3 ways to transition from the acquired realm to the innate realm. 1. Consuming a rare spiritual medicine of heaven and earth, and, upon absorbing its power, even an ordinary person could become an innate martial Taoist. 2. An acquired peak martial artist grasps a breakthrough opportunity and successfully steps into the innate realm. This method is the mainstream one, and nearly all innate martial artists have advanced in this way. 3. Refining a supreme martial art to the state of perfection. A supreme martial art is the painstaking creation of a martial expert at the Grand Master realm. A supreme martial art at the state of perfection has already developed one aspect of the human body to the ultimate limit. It's not strange for innate qi to be naturally born from this. However, those who advance to the innate realm through this approach are usually in their 50s or 60s, having devoted decades to the study of a supreme martial art, until they achieve a realization on a certain day entirely by chance. Someone like Lin Yuan, who had grasped a supreme martial art at 3 or 4 years old, at least the abbot and department heads had never heard of such a case. Only a martial prodigy, born with knowledge and encountered once in 1,000 years, could vaguely explain this phenomenon. Little fellow, would you be willing to take me as your master? Elder Long Eyebrow looked at Lin Yuan with a complex expression and suddenly asked. Upon these words, monks like the abbot and department heads did not show any signs of surprise. After confirming that Lin Yuan had grasped a supreme martial art and refined it to the state of perfection, they all realized that Lin Yuan's martial talent could truly be classified as the best in 1,000 years at the great Zen temple. Such a martial genius, Only Elder Long Eyebrow in the entire Great Zen Temple had the confidence to teach. As for the abbot, department heads, and others, strictly speaking, they were in the same innate realm as Lin Yuan. What qualification did they have to take disciples? Disciple pays his respects to the master. Lin Yuan promptly bowed to Elder Long Eyebrow. Becoming Elder Long Eyebrow's disciple indeed saved Lin Yuan a great deal of time. According to the rules of the Great Zen Temple, every disciple, no matter who, regardless of status, must first spend 3 years as a saddled horse monk, 3 years doing menial tasks, 3 years in the lecture hall, 3 years in the discipline academy. Only after enduring these 12 years do they qualify to formally come into contact with the true martial arts of the Great Zen Temple. Had Lin Yuan not displayed his talent and merely lingered among the ordinary novice monks, it's unknown how much time would have been wasted. Although, with his against heaven's understanding, even watching mountains and rivers could bring about realizations, the outcome of the same time spent due to different starting points is naturally worlds apart. Under the premise that he could only remain in this world for 20 years, merely getting by was clearly not tenable. With Lin Yuan taking Elder Long Eyebrow as his master, having the only grandmaster of the Great Zen Temple for direct instruction, combined with his against heaven's understanding, Lin Yuan's progress would be exceptionally rapid, a rarity in the world. 2 months later, Lin Yuan sat opposite Elder Long Eyebrow. "From now on, you should move to live in the Sutra Pavilion," said Elder Long Eyebrow, his mouth twitching slightly. The subtext of his words was that Elder Long Eyebrow felt he could no longer teach Lin Yuan. There was no helping it. Lin Yuan's understanding was just too exaggerating. At first, Elder Long Eyebrow could still offer Lin Yuan some guidance. But after a few days he sensed something was amiss. Since ancient times, a person with sharp wit was described as one who understands by analogy. But was Lin Yuan just seeing 1 and inferring 3? He saw 1 and inferred 10. He saw 1 and inferred 100. No matter what Elder Long Eyebrow said, Lin Yuan could quickly understand. And from that, he would infer even deeper meanings. What made Elder Long Eyebrow find even more incredible was that Lin Yuan's talent was not limited to the martial Tao. In the study of Buddhist scriptures and laws it was the same. Facing this abnormal prodigy, even a grandmaster like Elder Long Eyebrow found it hard to keep up. So, towards the end, rather than saying that Elder Long Eyebrow was instructing Lin Yuan, it was more like 2 high monks engaging in an equal debate. Even some of the things Lin Yuan said greatly benefited Elder Long Eyebrow, a grandmaster himself. And up to this step it only took 2 months. Sutra Pavilion? Lin Yuan's eyes slightly lit up. The Sutra Pavilion was the place where Great Zen Temple stored its martial arts. It was an absolute core and crucial location. The 72 great skills, those superior martial arts, were placed on the 2nd floor of the Sutra Pavilion. Moreover, on the 3rd floor of the Sutra Pavilion, there were martial arts that surpassed the 72 great skills. In fact, Lin Yuan had long wanted to visit the Sutra Pavilion, but Elder Long Eyebrow had not agreed. He said that Lin Yuan was too young and that contact with too high-level things was detrimental to one's state of mind. The many martial arts stored in the Sutra Pavilion are the works of the Great Zen Temple's past grandmasters. There, you should be able to learn even more. Elder Long Eyebrow waved his hand, resigning himself to his fate. Since he couldn't teach Lin Yuan, let the past grandmasters of the Great Zen Temple teach him. In fact, as a core part of the Great Zen Temple, ordinary disciples had no right to enter the Sutra Pavilion. But Lin Yuan was different. With the permission of Elder Long Eyebrow, a grandmaster, entering the Sutra Pavilion would not be a problem. After that day, Elder Long Eyebrow announced he would go into seclusion, and Lin Yuan often stayed in the Sutra Pavilion. At only 3 years old, Lin Yuan began browsing the many martial arts. The martial arts stored in the Sutra Pavilion were as vast as the sea of smoke, with the 72 great skills being just the most famous part, and there were many others besides. I Jin Jing. On the 2nd floor of the Sutra Pavilion, Lin Yuan took out an ancient tome. The I Jin Jing was a special martial art that could reshape the tendons and enhance one's martial talent. Its value was even above that of the 72 great skills. However, this martial art, throughout the entire Great Zen Temple, had not been mastered by a single person. The reason was that the threshold for this martial art was too high, requiring not only martial Tao comprehension but also touching upon the essence of Buddhist scriptures. Elder Long Eyebrow might have had the foundation to cultivate the I Ching Jing, but for a grandmaster, the I Ching Jing was no longer that important. Lin Yuan picked up the original I Ching Jing and began to read it earnestly. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Your understanding is against heaven. While observing the special martial art I Ching Jing, you've comprehended the special martial art I Ching, washing marrow, tempering body, exchanging blood, refining divine skill. Lin Yuan's heart rejoiced, only to see an inexplicable breath circulating among his limbs and bones, slowly strengthening his meridians and flesh. This force was not limited to the physical body. Even Lin Yuan's spirit and soul began to be nourished. The original I Ching Jing could only reshape tendons, the effect being somewhat singular. Now, the I Ching washing marrow, tempering body, exchanging blood, refining divine skill, I've realized can enhance in all aspects without any weaknesses or shortcomings. Even a great grandmaster would be jealous upon seeing it. Lin Yuan couldn't help but reveal a smile at the corner of his mouth. Through 2 months of instruction by Elder Long Eyebrow, a grandmaster, Lin Yuan was no longer ignorant about the martial arts of today's world. Grandmasters don't focus on tendons and bones. Or rather, every grandmaster's tendons and bones have been developed to the extreme of ordinary people in that aspect. However, the subsequent tempering of the body, exchanging blood, and refining the spirit could have a great influence on grandmasters. Especially refining the spirit, as it is said that even great grandmasters are extremely eager for martial arts that can enhance the spirit. With this I Ching washing marrow, tempering body, exchanging blood, refining divine skill, entering the grandmaster realm should be accelerated by some time. Lin Yuan nodded slightly, feeling quite satisfied. After realizing the great Arhat Buddha fist, although Lin Yuan had soared to the skies, surpassing the acquired realm and directly stepping into the innate realm, Lin Yuan's innate realm was somewhat hollow in strength. After all, other innate martial Tao experts had cultivated their innate qi on the premise of vigorous qi and blood, ultimately breaking through to the innate realm. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan, with the body of a 3-year-old child, whether in terms of quality or quantity, his innate qi was naturally far from that of a normal innate martial Tao expert. The realm had been achieved. The rest was just a matter of time. But now, with this I Ching washing marrow, tempering body, exchanging blood, refining divine skill, nurturing his physical body and spirit, Lin Yuan was even saving time. This martial art far surpassed the I Ching Jing, being able to comprehensively improve and enhance everything about Lin Yuan. And so, Lin Yuan stayed in the Sutra Pavilion for 5 years. Chapter 6. Is this still a human? Is this still a human? Great Zen Temple, ancient lamps before age-old Buddhas. 5 years had hardly left a trace in this place. Sutra Pavilion. 5 years already. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, his eyes deep and serene. Unconsciously, he had already been in this world for 5 years. A quarter of the 20-year residency period had passed. In these 5 years, Lin Yuan had immersed himself in the understanding and cultivation of the law. He had also gained a certain level of understanding of this world. As for the sources of his understanding, they naturally came from the Great Zen Temple. Being the holy land of the Buddha Gate and one of the great martial sects of the world, the Great Zen Temple was naturally not truly isolated from the world. On the contrary, the temple's intelligence network had infiltrated every aspect of the world. Using Buddhist belief as a cover for their intelligence, they were omnipresent. According to what Lin Yuan knew, the Dali dynasty currently ruled the Central Plains, at the height of its power. All the lands far and wide submitted to its rule. Even a 1,000-year great martial sect like the Great Zen Temple had to bow its head before the Dali dynasty. According to intelligence gathered by the temple, there were at least 6 martial arts grandmasters serving the Dali dynasty. To put into perspective, the grandmasters of martial arts in the world today added together would scarcely exceed a dozen. With just one grandmaster to guard, the great Zen temple could dominate the martial fraternity. The deterrent power of the Dali dynasty, employing 6 martial arts grandmasters, can only be imagined. The foundation of the Dali dynasty rested on its founder, a great grandmaster himself. Grandmaster, great grandmaster, a difference of just one word, yet as different as heaven and earth. Since ancient times, each era would produce several grandmasters, as few as 10 or as many as several dozen. But the advent of a great grandmaster was an event that might only occur once in several hundred years. The Dali dynasty swept across all under heaven, forcing even grand martial sects like the great Zen temple to submit, all thanks to that peerless founding great grandmaster. So much so that, to this day, many years after the demise of that founding great grandmaster, the Dali dynasty still has the means to command so many martial arts grandmasters. If we were to say that Hotion, innate, and even grandmaster are merely enhancements and transformations at the physical body level, then the great grandmaster is an elevation of the spirit and soul. A living great grandmaster needs only a glance to cause an ordinary grandmaster's heart to tremble. Spiritual exotic force. Lin Yuan touched his brow. The founder of the great Zen temple, Grandmaster Bodhidharma from 1,000 years ago, was also a great grandmaster. Therefore, the great Zen temple was not short on descriptions concerning great grandmasters. Compared to grandmasters, the most significant characteristic of a great grandmaster is the beginning of tapping into the power of the spirit and soul. To break through to great grandmaster, one must consolidate and take control of this spiritual exotic force. But how intangible is the spirit and soul? An ordinary grandmaster might spend decades without ever feeling such power. And even if a grandmaster did realize it, any slight miscalculation during the consolidation of the spiritual exotic force could lead to a fate of no redemption. After all, physical injuries can heal over time with proper care. But on the level of the spirit and soul, no such negligence can be tolerated. Under normal circumstances, out of 100 grandmasters, 80 would never touch upon the level of spirit and soul in their whole lives. 19 would fail to gather the spiritual exotic force and die in the attempt. In the end, only one grandmaster might advance to the realm of great grandmaster. The 163rd secret technique to break into the realm of great grandmaster almost poses no danger. Lin Yuan mused within. Since the year before last, after he used the E-gene washing marrow tempering body exchanging blood refining divine skill to nurture his body and successfully step into the realm of grandmaster, Lin Yuan had been pondering over the law to ascend to great grandmaster in his spare time. With Lin Yuan's against heaven's understanding, realizing and even developing the spirit and soul was not a problem. What was difficult was how to gather the spiritual exotic force without any risk. Such a fundamental force related to the soul, even for Lin Yuan, required utmost care. The founder Bodhidharma of the great Zen temple had indeed left behind the method to break through to the great grandmaster level. Moreover, it was stored on the 3rd floor of the Sutra Pavilion. However, the death rate of that method was alarmingly high at 96%. A 96% death rate, though better than the 99% death rate out there, was still far from acceptable to Lin Yuan. That's why he intended to create a completely risk-free secret technique for ascending to great grandmaster, drawing upon his own against heaven's understanding. After creating 162 secret techniques, the breakthrough method he devised a few days prior, the 163rd, left Lin Yuan quite satisfied. It not only reduced the risk of advancing to great grandmaster to almost zero, even if some extreme situation arises, such as being disturbed by an external force during the breakthrough. Or if Lin Yuan suddenly doesn't want to break through anymore, there is still room for remedy. At most, a few years of recuperation would suffice for recovery. Unlike other secret techniques for breakthrough which leave no room for turning back. To step into the realm of the great grandmaster is to do so today. After mulling it over for a while, Lin Yuan decided to begin his breakthrough immediately. Meanwhile, the abbot of the great Zen temple, along with the head of the Martial Monk Institute Huiwen and several other institute heads, were chatting leisurely. Counting the time, it has been 3 or 4 years since Huizhen, our junior brother, set foot outside the Sutra Pavilion, hasn't it? The disciplinary institute head reflected for a moment before speaking. Huizhen, our junior brother, that is, Lin Yuan. After becoming a disciple of Elder Long Eyebrow, Lin Yuan's seniority in the Great Zen Temple was equal to that of the abbot, belonging to the Hui generation. When the abbot mentioned Lin Yuan, he would refer to him as a junior brother. Correct. The abbot of the Great Zen Temple nodded and said, since Lin Yuan moved into the Sutra Pavilion 5 years ago, except for the first year when he occasionally came out, he hadn't stepped out of the Sutra Pavilion's gate in the following 4 years. It is said that Huizhen, our junior brother, cultivated innate qi at the age of 3, and that he is a martial arts prodigy that comes once in a millennium, yet his dedication to the martial Tao transcends that of ordinary people. The head of the Miscellaneous Tasks Institute spoke. The others nodded in agreement. 4 years without leaving the Sutra Pavilion, spending every day with martial arts scriptures, demonstrating a level of focus and patience that many high-ranking monks do not possess. I wonder how junior brother Huizhen's cultivation is coming along? A trace of curiosity appeared on the face of a third institute head. Having merely observed a practice of the Arhat fist and consequently stepped into the innate realm, everyone wanted to know what level Lin Yuan had achieved after spending 5 years in the Sutra Pavilion. With junior brother Huizhen's talent, he might already be at the peak of the innate realm, the disciplinary institute head speculated. Innate realm peak? The abbot of the Great Zen Temple hesitated for a moment. The martial Tao of this world is divided into the postnatal, innate, grandmaster and great-grandmaster realms. Although Lin Yuan stepped into the innate realm as a 3-year-old child, a child that age usually lacks the vitality and blood energy, surely a foundation like that would require extensive time to compensate. In 5 years, Lin Yuan might have just made up for it and reached the standards of a regular innate martial Tao expert. Perhaps. The abbot of the Great Zen Temple pondered briefly before nodding slightly. He didn't believe that junior brother Huizhen, after compensating for his poor foundation, could have further cultivated to the peak of the innate realm. However, since Lin Yuan was Elder Long Eyebrow's disciple and their peer, he had to be careful not to be too dismissive. You two old fellows have so little confidence in junior brother Huizhen? Maybe junior brother Huizhen has already become a grandmaster by now. The head of the Martial Monk Institute glanced in the direction of the Sutra Pavilion, a smile emerging on his face as he spoke. He was the first to recognize Lin Yuan's martial arts talent. Grandmaster. The Disciplinary Institute head and the head of the Miscellaneous Tasks Institute looked at each other and shook their heads slightly. Even though they could sense the head of the Martial Monk Institute was partly jesting, neither responded to support the claim. After all, that was a grandmaster. Throughout the heavens, they were titanic figures that could be counted on one's hands. Okay. Enough about junior brother Huizhen. The abbot of the Great Zen Temple felt the idle conversation was drifting into the absurd and immediately intervened to stop them. However, at that moment, boom! An invisible surge rose to the sky, transforming into ripples spreading in all directions. Is this spiritual psychic power? A great grandmaster's spiritual psychic power? The abbot of the Great Zen Temple and the institute head's pupils suddenly contracted. Instantly, they felt a sense of shock, their faces showing signs of fear. When did another great grandmaster appear in the world? And that great grandmaster had come to their Great Zen Temple? No. This spiritual psychic force, it's coming from the Sutra Pavilion. It's junior brother Huizhen's aura. The Disciplinary Institute head seemed to realize something, his eyes bulging. Huizhen's junior brother's aura? Spiritual psychic power? Great Grandmaster. The abbot of the Great Zen Temple and the head of the Martial Monk Institute gasped as if they had seen a ghost. Based on the origin of this spiritual psychic power and its aura, a possibility they couldn't help but consider dawned on them. Could it be that junior brother Huijin, who had stayed in the Sutra Pavilion for 5 years, had stepped into the realm of Great Grandmaster? Upon realizing this, a sense of absurdity washed over them. Being innate at 3 years old was one thing, but now a Great Grandmaster at 8? Is he still human? Is he still human? Chapter 7: The Living Buddha Child. Innate and Grandmaster are not concepts that can be equated. Let alone a Great Grandmaster who has already developed spiritual psychic power? The most obvious manifestation is that those in the innate realm can take shortcuts. For example, consuming a certain spiritual medicine of heaven and earth. Or perhaps receiving the full force transmission of power from a certain Grandmaster. With the foundation of the great Zen temple, if willing to pay the price, it's entirely possible to artificially create a few innate realm martial Tao experts. But such an act is meaningless. For a great martial sect like the great Zen temple, having a few more innate martial Tao experts won't make a fundamental impact. What can truly decide the fate of the great Zen temple are the Grandmasters and the Great Grandmasters. The latter can even determine the great trends of the world. However, whether stepping into the Grandmaster realm or the realm of Great Grandmaster, external objects are of minimal use. Breaking through from innate to Grandmaster requires perfect control of strength. To break through from Grandmaster to Great Grandmaster, one must develop spiritual psychic power, with a slim chance of survival. This is also why the abbot of the great Zen temple and others were shocked when they realized that the mysterious Great Grandmaster, who displayed spiritual psychic power, might be Lin Yuan from the Sutra Pavilion. In today's world, a Great Grandmaster emerges only once in hundreds of years. The last known Great Grandmaster was the founding emperor of the Dali dynasty, 180 years ago. Calculating the time, it's not entirely impossible for a new Great Grandmaster to be born. But it should be someone from among those long-renowned individuals at the Grandmaster peak. As for Lin Yuan, mere an 8-year-old child, how could he possibly be a Great Grandmaster who dominates the era, invincible under the heavens? This is completely beyond reason, beyond comprehension. In the back mountain of the great Zen temple, Elder Long Eyebrow, who was in seclusion, was also startled by the spiritual fluctuations coming from the room in the Sutra Pavilion. Spiritual psychic power? Has my disciple Huijin already stepped into the realm of Great Grandmaster? Elder Long Eyebrow's gaze turned blank as he murmured to himself. Even though he had anticipated this day, his emotions still fluctuated uncontrollably at this moment. As the Grandmaster of this generation in the great Zen temple, Elder Long Eyebrow had once taught Lin Yuan for 2 months and was aware of his terrifying talent in martial Tao. In Elder Long Eyebrow's view, it was no problem for Lin Yuan to become a Grandmaster in the future, and he even had a great chance of touching the realm of Great Grandmaster. But that was something for several decades later. Now only 5 years had passed. Lin Yuan, now a Great Grandmaster? Compared to the abbot and leaders of the temple, Elder Long Eyebrow's shock was even greater. The abbot and temple leaders were only at the innate realm peak. They knew of the difficulty of breaking through to the realm of Great Grandmaster, but they didn't have a concrete concept of it. Elder Long Eyebrow, however, was a Grandmaster, only one realm away from becoming a Great Grandmaster. He was constantly aware of the vast chasm between a Grandmaster and a Great Grandmaster. Even with the secret techniques for breaking through left by Patriarch Bodhidharma, Elder Long Eyebrow had no clue about how to make the breakthrough to Great Grandmaster. Inside the Sutra Pavilion, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, containing the fluctuations of his spiritual psychic power. This spiritual force, is it similar to the mind-master evolution path of the cosmic human civilization? Lin Yuan speculated in his heart. In cosmic human civilization, evolvers are no secret. The many evolution paths that have emerged from this are well known to most citizens. The mind-master path of evolution requires stimulating the mind through special means. And then he mastered the power of the mind, unleashing many abilities that were beyond imagination. It is only similar, not the same, Lin Yuan thought to himself. The evolvers of the Mind Master evolution path have a mastery of mental power that leans towards the illusionary aspects, whereas the spiritual powers of a great grandmaster are purely for killing and warfare, creating an oppressive force that surpasses that of the Mind Masters. Moreover, in the cosmic human civilization, the flesh and blood of the Mind Masters are generally considered weak points and appear somewhat frail. But a great grandmaster's body has long surpassed the limits of ordinary people, and they are able to perfectly control every bit of their strength. Lin Yuan did not know the specific advantages and disadvantages of the Mind Master's evolution path. But he speculated in his heart that in terms of combat power, the Mind Masters should be somewhat weaker. Martial Tao, when considered in cosmic human civilization, should be considered a completely new evolution path. If I can deduce the martial Tao to a higher level in this realm and later present it to the goddess of wisdom for evaluation, I should be able to obtain a substantial reward. Lin Yuan silently pondered. After learning about the forced conscription, Lin Yuan had asked the goddess of wisdom and knew that she highly valued new evolution paths. Are they all waiting outside? Lin Yuan seemed to sense something and glanced outside the Sutra Pavilion. When breaking through to the realm of Great Grandmaster, condensing spiritual powers inevitably led to spreading the news. As a result, it was only normal for the abbot and the heads of the monastery to notice. Outside the Sutra Pavilion, Elder Long Eyebrow, the abbot of the great Zen temple, and the heads of the monastery were all waiting. If there were other monks present, they would notice that the abbot and the heads, who normally presented themselves with the poise of high monks, were now showing a trace of nervousness on their faces. It was as if they were schoolchildren about to meet a teacher they admired. Uneasy, expectant. Everyone, come in. Just then, a gentle voice rang out in everyone's ears. Yes. After receiving permission, the abbot and the heads exhaled slightly and followed Elder Long Eyebrow into the Sutra Pavilion. We greet the Buddha child. On the third floor of the Sutra Pavilion, Elder Long Eyebrow and others finally saw Lin Yuan. They immediately bowed and said they had no choice. If one could explain Lin Yuan reaching the innate realm at the age of 3 as a once-in-a-millennium martial Tao prodigy, then stepping into the realm of Great Grandmaster at the age of 8 was something that could not be explained by any stretch of common sense. Only the reincarnation of a true Buddha, a Buddha child on earth, could reel back people's cognition. Everyone, including Elder Long Eyebrow, did not hesitate to address Lin Yuan as Buddha child. Buddha child. Lin Yuan slightly smiled, without admitting it, nor denying it. Lin Yuan's own family knew their own affairs. He was not any Buddha child. But as long as Lin Yuan kept silent about it, no one else would know. Next, Lin Yuan spoke a few words with the abbot and the heads. He took the chance to share his enlightenment about the breakthrough from the innate realm to the Grandmaster realm over the past few years, explaining it in a way that offered guidance. This directly enlightened the abbot and the heads like an epiphany. The great Zen temple, as a great martial sect with a great Grandmaster's heritage, naturally had records on how to break through to the Grandmaster level. These were the precious heritages left by Patriarch Bodhidharma and successive Grandmasters. However, even the manuscripts left by Patriarch Bodhidharma contained many things that the abbot and the heads found difficult to fully grasp. Being able to do certain things doesn't necessarily mean understanding all the principles and essences of those things. They all knew that to break through to the Grandmaster, one needed to perfectly control every bit of their own strength. But exactly how to control it perfectly, and what it means to do so, was not elaborated, let alone how to achieve it. Yet Lin Yuan, relying on his against heaven's understanding, was able to faithfully replicate the process of breaking through from the innate realm to the Grandmaster realm, giving specific methods and means. This almost moved the abbot and the heads to tears. With Lin Yuan's guidance, they could now at least see the hope of breaking through to the Grandmaster level. If they could absorb this guidance for 10 or 20 years, perhaps they too could step into the domain of Grandmaster. With just a few words from Lin Yuan, he nearly cultivated several Grandmasters for the great Zen temple's future in the next few decades. This capability, if not the Buddha child, then who else could achieve it? Indeed, if anyone now dared to doubt Lin Yuan's identity as the Buddha child, The abbot of the great Zen temple and the several heads would be the first to disagree. Chapter 8. Descend the mountain, enter the world. As for you, master. Lin Yuan looked towards Elder Long Eyebrow standing beside him. Elder Long Eyebrow had granted Lin Yuan guidance and direction, even if it had been for only 2 months. In addition, Lin Yuan had been able to smoothly move into the Sutra Pavilion because he had received a nod from Elder Long Eyebrow. In the realm of Great Grandmaster, the essence lies in the spirit. External forces can hardly interfere. Several years ago, upon studying the I Ching Jing within the Sutra Pavilion, I realized another martial art that should help in stepping into the realm of Great Grandmaster. The martial art that Lin Yuan mentioned was naturally the I Ching washing marrow tempering body exchanging blood, refining divine skill. This martial art, besides nurturing the physical body, could also temper the spirit. The breaking through from Grandmaster to Great Grandmaster essentially involved awakening spiritual power. And the purer the spiritual power, the easier it was to perceive and condense into a unique spiritual force. It can be said that as long as one can cultivate this martial art to the state of perfection, the probability of breaking through from the peak of Grandmaster to the realm of Great Grandmaster could almost reach 20 to 30%. Buddha child, there's no need to expend your energy on me. The path to Great Grandmaster requires a moment of sudden enlightenment, Elder Long Eyebrow immediately said. Before Lin Yuan, the common knowledge among the world's martial arts powerhouses was that the realm of Great Grandmaster could not be forced. Even a Great Grandmaster himself could hardly cultivate another Great Grandmaster. 1,000 years ago, Patriarch Bodhidharma, the founder of the Great Zen Temple and a Great Grandmaster, took 108 high monks of the Buddha Gate as disciples and established the Great Zen Temple. Yet none of these 108 high monks were able to step into the realm of Great Grandmaster. It doesn't matter. Just listen. Lin Yuan didn't say much and slowly spoke of the I Ching, washing marrow tempering body exchanging blood refining divine skill. Seeing this, Elder Long Eyebrow listened patiently. At first, Elder Long Eyebrow was quite at ease, believing that what Lin Yuan said would be somewhat similar to the insights left by Patriarch Bodhidharma. But just 1/5 of the way through, his brow furrowed, and his thoughts began to surge. This! As a Grandmaster, Elder Long Eyebrow's heartbeat quickened. With his basic discernment, he had realized just halfway through that the martial art Lin Yuan was imparting held great value. It was actually a martial art for tempering the spirit. Spiritual martial arts had appeared before. On the 3rd floor of the Sutra Pavilion, there were several spiritual martial arts left by Patriarch Bodhidharma. However, all the known spiritual martial arts of the world could only be cultivated by Great Grandmasters, and only those who had condensed a unique spiritual force, meeting the basic condition for practicing spiritual martial arts. But the I Ching washing marrow tempering body exchanging blood refining divine skill, that Lin Yuan had realized could even be cultivated by martial artists of the innate realm. This was simply inconceivable. For a moment, Elder Long Eyebrow was at a loss for words. He knew very well the value of this martial art. It could be said that if this matter were to spread, the Great Zen Temple would become the focus of the entire world. The other great martial sects and even the Dali dynasty would shamelessly come over to snatch away this martial art. After a moment, Lin Yuan finished speaking and looked towards Elder Long Eyebrow, who was stunned. The abbot Huiwen, and a few others standing beside him had also listened once but didn't immediately realize the value of this martial art. They just felt that the martial art Lin Yuan spoke of was abstruse and difficult to understand, requiring gradual comprehension. All right. You may all go back now. Lin Yuan cast his gaze downwards and waved his hand. Yes. Elder Long Eyebrow, as if awakening from a dream, suppressed the excitement in his heart and respectfully responded. After Elder Long Eyebrow and the others left, the Sutra Pavilion became quiet once more. Lin Yuan went up to the 3rd floor and picked up an ancient tome. On the surface of the tome were the words, Demon Subduing Wisdom Scripture. The wisdom scripture was related to the spirit. This martial art was indeed a spiritual martial art, left by Patriarch Bodhidharma 1,000 years ago. Before breaking through to Great Grandmaster, Lin Yuan had not mastered any unique spiritual force. Although he possessed an against heaven's understanding, he had not delved much into such spiritual martial arts. Now that he had already become a great grandmaster, he naturally began to comprehend this aspect. Half a month flew by in a blink. During these 10+ days, Lin Yuan had been observing the demon-subduing wisdom scripture. Your understanding goes against heaven, deciphering the spiritual martial art, demon-subduing wisdom scripture, and realizing the unique spiritual skill, heaven-striking, earth-shattering skill. Lin Yuan rejoiced in spirit. Within the Naiwan Palace at his brow, strands of unique spiritual force continually entwined and overlapped, forming an inexplicable pattern that imprinted itself upon it. Heaven-striking, earth-shattering skill. Unique spiritual skill. Lin Yuan felt that once he activated the pattern within the Naiwan Palace, woven from unique spiritual force, he would unleash a type of spiritual domain. Within the scope of this domain, even if another was a great grandmaster, their spiritual will would be suppressed and subjected to the torment of sinking and being lost. This defies all reason. Lin Yuan shook his head, feeling somewhat emotional. Merely with this unique spiritual skill, Lin Yuan was confident he could be invincible within the Grandmaster realm. Time marched on. Another 5 years had quickly passed. Within the Sutra Pavilion, unnamed auras pervaded the space, halting just at the threshold. Above the realm of the great Grandmaster, Lin Yuan opened his eyes, and a white lightning bolt seemed to flash across the void. Lightning born from the void. This was the external manifestation of an extremely powerful spirit. The spiritual force of a great grandmaster could kill a man, yet it couldn't shake the rules of matter. For instance, lifting a rock using the force of one's spirit. Since ancient times, not a single great grandmaster had managed to do this. However, now this ironclad law was broken by Lin Yuan. For his realm had already transcended that of the great grandmaster, reaching an unparalleled level never seen before in this world. With his against heaven's understanding, it took Lin Yuan merely 5 years to cross the 3 major realms, from post-heaven to innate to grandmaster, and achieve the body of a great grandmaster. Now, another 5 years had passed, and it was not surprising that he broke the chains of the great grandmaster, accomplishing feats that no one in history had. Above the great grandmaster, let's call it the mythical realm. Lin Yuan thought to himself. The level beyond the great grandmaster was one of legends, of myths. Therefore, naming it mythical seemed quite fitting. There are still 10 years left to stay. It's time to take a look outside. Lin Yuan eased his aura and looked out beyond the great Zen temple. After stepping into the mythical realm, Lin Yuan had essentially absorbed all the accumulated foundations of the great Zen temple over 1,000 years. If he wanted to maintain the cultivation speed of the past 10 years, he would need to travel the world and experience other martial secret techniques. After all, the great Zen temple was but one of the great martial sects. Beyond it, there were still several other great martial sects, and even the Dali dynasty that loomed large. Experiencing martial arts utterly different from those of the great Zen temple, and then refining them to their ultimate heights with his against heaven's understanding, would make it easier for Lin Yuan to comprehend the path and realm that lay ahead. Outside the Bodhi yard, Abbot Huayuan of the great Zen temple and a few abbots were convening once again. I can already feel the bottleneck of the Grandmaster realm. In as soon as 10 years, or at most 20, I should be able to make a breakthrough into the Grandmaster realm, Abbot Huayuan said excitedly. Normally, given his aptitude, the chances of stepping into the Grandmaster realm were not high. However, under Lin Yuan's guidance from several years ago, he now saw hope. The other abbots also looked quite thrilled. Lin Yuan's advice had greatly benefited them as well. Although they were not as confident as the abbot in making a breakthrough within 20 years, they still had high hopes for 30 or 40 years. For those martial artists at the innate realm peak in this age, living past 100 years was not difficult, and most abbots were in their 60s or 70s, capable of one last struggle. Just then, a martial monk hurried in. "Abbot! Abbots, no good!" The martial monk stammered, clearly very urgent. Take it easy, no rush. Abbot Huayuan comforted him softly. Buddha child, Buddha child. The martial monk took a deep breath, about to speak. What about the Buddha child? Abbot Huayuan stood up abruptly, looking directly at the martial monk. The other abbots were equally solemn. At this point, the Buddha child was seen as the hope of the great Zen temple for the next 500 years. Anything related to the Buddha child was a major affair for the great Zen temple. The Buddha child. Seeing the expressions of the abbots, the martial monk quickly said, "The Buddha child has descended the mountain." What? The Buddha child has left the mountain? Abbot Huayuan was stunned, then quickly asked, "Did the Buddha child say why he is leaving the mountain?" Exactly what did the Buddha child say? Abbot Huayuan of the Martial Monk Institute also asked urgently. The Buddha child said, he is going to leave the mountain to... The martial monk steadied himself, attempting to mimic Lin Yuan's tone. Have a look at this world. Chapter 9, the greatest in the world, Dali Dynasty. Has the Buddha child entered the world? Head of the Martial Monk Institute Huayuan immediately reacted. It wasn't strange for the monks of the great Zen temple to descend the mountain and explore the world. Abbot Huayuan and several heads of the institutes had experienced it themselves more than once. To high-ranking monks, descending the mountain to wander the world was part of their spiritual cultivation. However, in the minds of Abbot Huayuan and the others, Lin Yuan had been sitting in the Sutra Pavilion daily for 10 years. In such a state of mind, at least he was unmatched by the several institute heads. That's why they overlooked the fact that Lin Yuan had never actually left the mountain before. If the Buddha child ventures out alone, could he encounter any danger? The head of the Discipline Academy seemed to think of something and couldn't help but speak out. However, before he could finish his sentence, he swallowed his words. Abbot Huayuan and the other heads glanced at each other again. What a joke. Danger? Although they did not know Lin Yuan's current realm. As early as 5 years ago, Lin Yuan had already reached the realm of Great Grandmaster. In 5 years, even if Lin Yuan made no progress, he would still be a Great Grandmaster. With the strength of a Great Grandmaster, even if surrounded by tens of thousands of troops, it would just take some time to annihilate the whole army. At the very least, he could retreat unscathed. A great grandmaster traveling the world, as long as he does not wish to die, will not die. It's unnecessary. The portraits of the Buddha child have long been distributed to temples all over the world. Our monks from the great Zen temple all over will heed the Buddha child's command. Abbot Huayuan said slowly. The great Zen temple could serve as the holy land of Buddha Gate and one of the great martial sects, because its potential influence was unfathomable. Even among the other great martial sects, it was second to none. Outside the great Zen temple, the sky was vast, the land was broad. A young monk clad in a gray robe walked along a narrow mountain path. If someone observed carefully, they would discover that. With each step the young monk took, his figure would appear several meters away, incredibly mystical. This young monk was naturally Lin Yuan. After leaving the great Zen temple, Lin Yuan had traversed 1,200 miles in 2 hours. Compared to the realm of Great Grandmaster, the divine energy within a warrior at the mythical realm had evolved into a higher order of power. For now, Lin Yuan chose to call this power Yuan energy. A single strand of Yuan energy could break through 10 strands of inner Qi at the level of Great Grandmasters. Of course, this was a rudimentary comparison. Actual combat was a different matter. According to Lin Yuan's estimation, his true combat power had reached an unprecedented level. Even if all the great grandmasters from ancient times to the present were resurrected and stood before him, they would not be enough for him to slap away. Ha 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 ha. Exhilarating. It's truly exhilarating. With every step Lin Yuan took, his blood surged, and Yuan energy circulated within him. Monstrous heat spread in all directions, burning like a furnace. The physical body of a warrior at the mythical realm allowed Lin Yuan to resemble a humanoid beast. Suddenly, at that moment, Lin Yuan came to a halt. A gentle breeze brushed against his face. At once, Lin Yuan stood still as if in a daze. Days passed with the rising and setting of the sun. With your against heaven's understanding, after perusing countless scriptures and feeling the blowing wind, you have listened to the profound meanings of the wind and comprehended the true meaning martial arts, divine wind 9 steps. Lin Yuan opened his eyes, as numerous flickers of spiritual light erupted in his mind, forming a school of true meaning martial arts. True meaning martial arts, surpassing the martial arts of great grandmasters, would require a warrior at the mythical realm to expend a great deal of energy and time to possibly create. This time, stepping out from the great Zen temple, Lin Yuan's mind was at ease, free from confines, experiencing the winds of heaven and earth. With the aid of his against heaven's understanding, he created this martial art. Divine Wind 9 Steps. Lin Yuan carefully contemplated. This martial art belonged to the category of movement techniques. It utilized the Yuan force within one's body, drawing upon the power of heaven and earth. And after 9 steps, one would merge with the wind as much as possible, thereby achieving a several-fold increase in one's own speed. Terrifying. Lin Yuan felt quite emotional in his heart. At his level, every aspect had already reached its apex. To even enhance a fraction was immensely difficult, not to mention a several-fold increase. True meaning martial arts has already started to draw upon the power of heaven and earth. Is the path ahead also related to heaven and earth? Lin Yuan still stood in place, his expression reflective. Pudu Temple. This temple was built 300 years ago by a high-ranking monk from Great Zen Temple during his pilgrimage. Over the centuries, it had always maintained a close connection with Great Zen Temple. What business does the Buddha child have at Bright Moon Palace? The abbot of Pudu Temple asked cautiously. In front of him sat a young monk, who was none other than Lin Yuan. The main purpose of Lin Yuan's departure from Great Zen Temple was to observe the profound martial arts of other major factions. And the forces on par with Great Zen Temple, also known as Great Martial Sects, were his first choice. Those who were revered as Great Martial Sects generally had a great grandmaster as their founder, and also produced numerous grandmasters across generations. And Bright Moon Palace was one of these Great Martial Sects. The founder of Bright Moon Palace was an even rarer female Great Grandmaster. I wish to observe the many martial arts of Bright Moon Palace. Lin Yuan, sitting cross-legged, stated calmly. On the way to Bright Moon Palace, he passed by Pudu Temple and took a moment to rest. Even as someone of the mythical realm, he was still human, and could not go on tirelessly like a robot. Pudu Temple had deep roots with Great Zen Temple, and when the abbot of Pudu Temple recognized Lin Yuan's identity, he immediately saw to his personal hospitality. Bright Moon Palace. The abbot of Pudu Temple hesitated. Not to conceal from the Buddha child, half a year ago, a grandmaster from Bright Moon Palace passed away, and with no successor, there were internal rebellions. Many martial art scriptures are likely to be missing, the abbot of Pudu Temple said softly. Although Bright Moon Palace desperately tried to suppress this news, Pudu Temple, through special channels, became aware of it. Lin Yuan frowned slightly upon hearing this. If the Buddha child wishes to view the martial art scriptures of Bright Moon Palace, you might visit the Dali capital. Years ago, the founding emperor of Dali trod over the world, sweeping across all directions, and even visited Bright Moon Palace, copying all of their martial arts scriptures to take back with him. Pudu Temple paused for a while and then subtly mentioned another matter. At that time, it wasn't just Bright Moon Palace. Other great martial sects, including Great Zen Temple, had all been visited by the founding emperor of Dali, and many martial arts were copied and taken away. As a great grandmaster and unrivaled in his time, none of the great martial sects dared to refuse. They could only grudgingly accept this bitter pill. Oh! Lin Yuan's eyes lit up slightly. He had not read about this in the books at Great Zen Temple. However, on second thought, it seemed quite logical. Having all one's martial arts scriptures taken by an aggressor was hardly something to be proud of. Even if that person was the founding emperor of Dali, a great grandmaster. It was unlikely that Great Zen Temple would intentionally suppress this event, nor would they specially promote or record it. So you're saying, in the Dali capital, there are martial arts scriptures from all the current great martial sects? Lin Yuan asked. In the past, the founding emperor of Dali sought to advance further. Hence he gathered the martial arts from all over the world. Any martial arts force of renown had to hand over their core martial arts teachings without exception. The abbot of Pudu Temple stated truthfully. That's rather convenient. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. Originally, if Lin Yuan wanted to observe the martial arts of various sects, he would certainly need to visit each one by one, as the world's great martial sects were scattered across different regions. If Lin Yuan had to search for each sect individually, it would certainly waste a lot of time. Now it was simplified. A single visit to the Dali capital would suffice. Chapter 10. Why bother with all this trouble? Dali capital. Linglong Pavilion. As the largest tavern in the capital, Linglong Pavilion was packed with people every day. Visitors from out of town, local patrons. Given the chance, who wouldn't want to try the culinary delights of Linglong Pavilion? Clap. In the center of the tavern, on a raised platform, a storyteller was animatedly spinning a tale. They say that 10 years ago, within the great Zen temple, sanctum of the Buddha Gate, a Buddha child was born, possessing innate knowledge and the likeness of the Buddhas. It is said that at that time, the golden body of the Buddha appeared above the great Zen temple. Its golden light spread over dozens of miles. Many commoners whose bodies bathed in this light found their hidden ailments dissipating. Now 10 years have passed, and that Buddha child. Just as the storyteller reached this point, he suddenly stopped and addressed the audience with a bow. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be all for today. If you wish to know the current state of this young Buddha child, please come again tomorrow. As soon as these words were spoken, the many patrons on the scene immediately began to sigh in disappointment. They had been listening intently and wanted to find out what had become of the Buddha child, only to have the storyteller cut off the tale at this crucial moment. Who could stand such suspense? This is for you. Keep going. One brawny man said as he took out a silver ingot and threw it onto the platform. The rest of the audience also threw up some copper coins and other valuables. Heh, I am flattered by the audience's appreciation, and I shall continue. The storyteller chuckled upon seeing this and promptly sat down again. To tell a good story, one must know the perfect moment to pause, piquing the audience's curiosity. How else to make money? This storyteller clearly understood this well, and after collecting the money on the platform, he continued the story. Judging by his age, that Buddha child should be over 10 years old now, naturally reading Buddhist scriptures and studying the Buddha's law in the great Zen temple. The storyteller fanned himself with a paper fan and continued in a shaking voice. Murmur. The audience couldn't help but let out a murmur. They were expecting to hear about any remarkable feats of the Buddha child, but it turned out to be this. However, upon further thought, they found it reasonable. A child in his teens, despite possessing high Buddha nature, what could he truly achieve? As for the earlier anomalies described by the storyteller, they're probably fabricated to attract the audience's attention anyway. What no one in the tavern noticed was this. In a corner, a young monk dressed in a gray robe wore an expression of bemusement. Have I been written into a storybook? Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. In his view, there was nothing particularly strange about this. The great Zen temple was not only a holy land of Buddha Gate, but also among the great martial sects of the world. Every move was naturally the subject of outsider attention, especially for someone like himself, who was taken in by Elder Long Eyebrow, a grandmaster. Certainly, many eyes were fixed upon him. Moreover, the abbots of the temple had no intention of blocking the news. Over time, with one tale leading to another, it was natural for various versions of rumors to emerge. After sampling the cuisines of this world at Linglong Pavilion, Lin Yuan stood up, left some silver behind, and walked out. On the bluestone-paved streets where people were coming and going, cries of hawkers could be heard everywhere. Lin Yuan walked among them, not very conspicuous. However, as Lin Yuan continued deeper into the capital, The pedestrians on the road became fewer, while the patrolling soldiers seemed to increase. Until he arrived at a tall city gate, where dozens of soldiers with formidable auras stood guard with sharp eyes. Behind that city gate was Dali Imperial Palace, the absolute core of a dynasty. Even standing outside the palace, one could vaguely see the magnificent buildings within. At that moment, a slowly moving imperial carriage was driving out from within the palace. The gatekeepers saw it and immediately retreated to make way. Inside the carriage, a middle-aged monk in a red kasaya was rubbing his temple. The current Empress Dowager of Dali was a devout Buddhist, often inviting eminent monks to the palace. This middle-aged monk in the red kasaya was a well-known monk in recent years, highly regarded and favored by the Empress Dowager. Every 10 days or half a month, he would be invited to the palace. The Empress Dowager's questions are becoming more and more challenging. The middle-aged monk frowned with some annoyance. "I should be leaving the palace now," the middle-aged monk said as he reached out to lift the carriage curtain. He cast a casual glance. But this glance made the middle-aged monk's pupils constrict. "Is that?" The middle-aged monk focused on the young monk who was standing not far away, looking somewhat uncertain. "Buddha child." The middle-aged monk was from the great Zen temple, although in recent years he had stayed in Dali capital. He often kept in touch with the great Zen temple. A few years back, the temple sent him a portrait of the Buddha child and instructed him to remember it well. If he ever saw him, he would have to act as ordered. And the portrait was almost identical to the young monk not far from him. With this realization, the middle-aged monk hurriedly got out of the carriage and approached Lin Yuan. "Buddha child," he ventured. "You recognize me?" Lin Yuan's eyebrows lifted. 20 years ago, I too was a monk of the great Zen temple," the middle-aged monk said with a single sentence, indicating his identity. "I see." Lin Yuan nodded slightly. The great Zen temple was a holy land of the Buddha gate, its influence not limited to atop Mount Shaosher. The Pudu temple that Lin Yuan had passed earlier and the middle-aged monk before him were evidence of this. "May I inquire, Buddha child, is there a particular reason for your visit to the capital?" the middle-aged monk asked curiously. Prior to seeing Lin Yuan, he had not received any news from the great Zen temple. It was clear that Lin Yuan's visit was not known even to the abbots of the temple. Otherwise, it would have been impossible not to inform him. "I wish to visit the martial hall within the imperial palace," Lin Yuan stated. Lin Yuan began to speak. "The martial hall of the Dali Imperial Palace is where countless martial arts manuals from all over the world are stored. In past years, the founding emperor of the Dali dynasty set the order of the realm and placed the copied martial arts techniques of various sects into the martial hall. It can be said that the martial hall of the Dali Imperial Palace, with its extensive collection of martial arts, is 10 or even 100 times greater than that of the great Zen Temple's Sutra Pavilion. Wanting to enter the martial hall, that is somewhat troublesome." The middle-aged monk furrowed his brow upon hearing this. Generally speaking, only the offspring of the imperial clan are qualified to enter the martial hall. This was a rule established by the first emperor of Dali from the beginning. In addition, high-ranking officials who have made significant contributions to Dali are also qualified to enter the martial hall. But neither of these applied to Lin Yuan. Thus, he almost had no chance of coming into contact with the martial hall. Founded on martial prowess, the Dali dynasty placed extreme importance on its many secret martial arts techniques. It would definitely not casually allow an outsider to enter such a sacred martial arts place as the martial hall. "It's not that there's no way," the middle-aged monk slowly spoke. "Inside the palace, the security is extremely tight. Sneaking in is definitely out of the question." A trace of apprehension appeared on the middle-aged monk's face. As a distinguished guest of the Empress Dowager, he had some understanding of the Dali Imperial Palace. The 8,000 imperial guards within the palace are all acquired peak martial artists trained with the secret techniques of the imperial clan. The 200 deputy commanders are innate realm martial Taoists, while the 18 chief commanders are innate peak martial Taoists. It can be said that, with just this force alone, they could easily sweep away an army of several 100,000. Even if a grandmaster came in person, he would be trapped. Moreover, the middle-aged monk occasionally learned from the Empress Dowager that, at various key points within the palace, there were Grandmaster-level martial Taoists stationed. Having frequently visited the palace over the years, he roughly estimated that there were no fewer than 4 Grandmasters inside the palace. For Grandmasters, 208, 8,000 acquired peaks. This was the Dali dynasty's strongest hand. Even now, with the world in decay, the Dali dynasty could be rebuilt from the ground up. Not to mention that this was just a part of the Dali dynasty's foundation, as outside the palace the great armies stationed on the borders, along with the Grandmasters, were always ready to move at the behest of the Dali dynasty. Buddha child, listen to me. You will accompany me to the palace later to meet the Empress Dowager. With my recommendation, the Empress Dowager will definitely take a liking to the Buddha child. In the coming 3 months, Buddha child must visit the Empress Dowager frequently to become a familiar face. After half a year, when the Emperor celebrates his 60th birthday, with the Empress Dowager's support, you can accompany her to offer birthday greetings. At that time, I will present a treasure from the Buddha Gate. Under the great joy of the Emperor of Dali, the chances of the Buddha child's request to visit the martial hall will be very high. The middle-aged monk, after much contemplation, laid out the only feasible method currently available. Theoretically, outsiders cannot enter the martial hall. But if the current Emperor of Dali permits it, there is no question of whether one can enter or not. As long as Lin Yuan can gain the Emperor's favor, entering the martial hall would not be an impossible matter. After all, Lin Yuan was just going to look at the martial hall, which wouldn't cause any loss to the numerous martial arts texts within it. I wonder what Buddha child thinks about this. The middle-aged monk, having said his piece, saw that Lin Yuan was silent and asked with some uncertainty. It's indeed not bad. Lin Yuan nodded. The middle-aged monk had put a lot of thought into it. According to his method, there was a high probability that entry to the martial hall could be smoothly gained. It's just. Lin Yuan then shook his head. Just what? The middle-aged monk asked anxiously. It's too much trouble. Lin Yuan's gaze was calm as he looked towards the palace not far away. Trouble? The middle-aged monk didn't understand for a long moment. The plan he had just devised was as straightforward as possible. He would take. Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.